The end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, today I want to discuss Landa Digital Printing. You know, Landa Digital Printing came into the marketplace 13 years ago with a goal to disrupt industrial inkjet printing. It was a dream of theirs. They're going to disrupt it. 13 years later, on June 29th of 2025, Landa Digital Printing files Title 10 reorganization in Israel. I'm thinking the folks over there at Landa Digital Printing are wishing that machine printed money. Ladies and gentlemen, dreams cost money, and reality better make money. Here's one of my Ray-isms. When the investors inject reality into the dream, those still dreaming will be awakened by a nightmare. In preparation for today's episode, I read a lot of articles. I saw a video out there on the subject, and I want to talk about two articles that I read. One of the articles, I want to thank the author, because the author put a lot of insight in it, put some numbers in there, gave me some things to work with. The other article I consider 100% nonsense, complete whitewashing, and for the purpose of what I don't know. Our industry has to be able to talk about the bad stuff and the good stuff. Whitewashing bad stuff's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the end users that might have these presses. And it's not going to help the industry's actors that are truly concerned, that have a vested interest, that want to understand more about Landa Digital Printing. And so today I want to give my thoughts on these two articles. So let's start with the article that I actually respect and like. I found it in What They Think. It was written by David. His last name is spelled Z-W-A-N-G. It was published July 1st, 2025. Let me just read the first paragraph. Here we are, 13 plus years after the initial introduction of the Landa digital print technology. Today, there are more than 51 machines installed and many more in the pipeline. The Landa press technology and their current customer-centric support relationships are fairly unique, and that is why they are growing. However, there have been internal and external headwinds to that growth, and on Sunday, June 29th, Landa Digital Printing filed for Title 10 reorganization in Israel. He put in his article in the first paragraph that Landa Digital Printing filed for a Title 10 reorganization plan in Israel, not because he wanted to be mean to Landa Digital Printing. He did it because that's what they did. That's what the reporter's supposed to do. Here's what they did. And ladies and gentlemen, wait till I share this other article with you. It's crazy. He talks about how they've been around for 13 years. They got more than 51 of these presses installed in 14 countries around the world. More than 20% of their customers have placed a repeat order for a second or third press. When I read that, I got a little concerned because I'm thinking to myself, 51 machines, 20% of them are repeat customers. That means there's only 41 customers? There's only 41 new customers, and then the rest of them are replacing those machines? I mean, that's not a lot after 13 years. I'll give them 5 years of development and 8 years of selling, but still, do they have 60 machines? How many machines are out there after selling for at least 8 years? And they're in 14 countries. He goes on to say that the machines are between 3.5 and 4 million. I did some math. If they're 4 million and there's 60 units, that's 240 million that they've collected on hardware since the company started. And folks, that's not a lot. They got to sell more machines, right? They talk about how they're getting hit on their operating costs because of the war in Israel. Some of the things going on around that war. And folks, I get it. There's a war in Israel. There's not good. Geopolitical events are terrible, right? But at the end of the day, the company's been around for 13 years. They're in 14 countries. And I truly believe that if Landa Digital Printing had 100 or 200 machines out in the marketplace, and those machines were producing a really strong return because the customers were buying tons of ink and the service and all that stuff, and they were able to make all kinds of money on that, I don't think the investors would be worried. I think they could wait out the war, right? I'm just asking the question. It says in the article that the machines cost way more to make than they could sell them for. To me, that's a poor business model. I mean, if you're bringing into the marketplace technology that's innovative, that changes the game, that's different, why can't you charge enough to make money? I mean, seriously. Is this nanographic technology too expensive to bring to the market? Does it cost too much to maintain and support these machines? What's going on? I mean, what's the issue? Why are the investors getting a little bit of a, well, they're pulling back? Because he goes on to say that there's been $1.3 billion put in this company. He talks about all the investors. And folks, y'all need to pay attention to this sentence I'm going to read you right now. As he talks about the investors and some of the investors that don't want to invest anymore, listen to this sentence. On May 22nd of this year, Susan Clatton turned over the leadership of her companies to her offspring, who decided they no longer wanted to fund Landa Digital Printing growth. We're out. We don't want to fund it anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to that, because the new generation is going to scrutinize investments into print technologies without any emotional baggage towards the importance of print. They're looking at a whole lot of other things. Should we be investing in AI? Is there any kind of software directly going to a consumer that we should be invested in? What should we invest in? Should we really be investing in a print machine? Oh yeah, it's innovative technology, but should we really invest in it? Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of investors are going to be asking those questions around our industry, and we all better be ready for it. We all better be ready for it, and I've been warning you on this for a long time. They talk about how they got to get more machines into markets that will print more and use them more so they can sell more consumables. But I got to ask the question, how much are you making in the aftermarket? What is the aftermarket? If you got 51 or 60 machines out there, how much revenue and how much profit from that revenue are you bringing to the house, right? From the annuity part of the business. It talks about the future. They talk about how they got 500 employees, they're going to reduce it down to 250 or 300. And here's my thinking. We have the future products satisfying many industrial print applications. So give us more money and we'll cut our staff by 50%. That doesn't make any sense. I also want to ask them this: how many of the 500 employees are on site full-time at end user clients? I'm hearing some horrifying stories, and I've had these, told me from a couple different people, but do we have people that are from Landa Digital Printing on site where these machines are, like full-time? There's nothing wrong with that as long as the customer's paying for that, and Landa Printing is making a crap load of money from it. But I got to ask the question, why do we need to have an employee at every site? I'm hoping that that's just not right, and maybe they can clarify that in the comments. But again, I think it's a big deal to understand the annuity program for this company. Because, if you sold 51 or 60 machines, but you were bringing in massive amounts of revenue on ink and supplies and the service, and you were making all kinds of money on that, I think the investors would be okay. So something's out of whack. And I believe that the innovation, this nanographic technology, and delivering it into the marketplace is too costly. That's really what I believe. And I don't believe it's about a new beginning, because 13 years is a long time to go, right? And I think it's more about throwing good money after a bad business model, is my thinking. Now I want to talk about this other article. I found it in the Cannata Report. The author was Mark, his last name, V-R-U-N-O. Published July 1st of 2025. Let me read the title. Landa Digital Printing restructures. His first paragraph. Landa Digital Printing has initiated a restructuring process to align the company's structure with the current business environment and support its growth. The company's management is in talks with potential strategic investors. What a bunch of crap this is. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, let me just remind you, the last article, they actually brought up Landa Digital Printing filed for a Title 10 reorders to plant in Israel. This one, no. I want to read on. I'm going to read this whole article. Be patient with me, because this just describes whitewashing. Just listen to this. Landa Digital Printing developed the world's first and only digital solution for mainstream commercial and folded carton printing, based on groundbreaking nanographic printing technology that is transforming the industry. The company serves a range of global customers, including top companies in the printing industry and their clients, among them multi-international corporations and leading brands in the food, pharmaceutical, publishing, and other sectors. LDP is experiencing growth, and over the past year has seen an increase in new customers, with a 30% rise in the number of printing presses installed at customer sites, including many repeat orders from key customers. Man, it sounds like things are just going great over there, right? Let me go on. Although the company's potential is very clear, it now requires greater investment than initially anticipated. In light of the market environment, customer caution due to geopolitical and economical uncertainties, the ongoing war in Israel, and other commercial challenges. As a result, LDP's management and board of directors have decided to reorganize the company to better adapt to the current marketplace landscape and to pursue realizing its potential. As part of the process, workforce reductions will be implemented. Customers and their business continuity remain the company's top priority. In parallel, the company is in discussion with potential strategic investors. That's their article. It doesn't talk about any of the investors. It doesn't talk about the investors leaving. It is complete whitewash nonsense, and I got to ask a question. To be clear, the Cannata Report believes placing 50 to 60 presses in the worldwide market over 8 to 10 years, and all while being probably unprofitable, is my thinking. There wouldn't be investors leaving, right? Is transforming an industry? I don't. Instead, I see this as a house of cards. What exactly makes Landa's potential clear? This is pure pandering and whitewashing. There's no clear potential. What is clear about it? They had to go and file for protection. That means it's unclear. That's why you file for protection, right? Holy smokes. Unfortunately, I don't believe Landa or its board decided to restructure. Instead, Landa investors decided to end pouring more money into a project not yielding a clear ROI. So in my thinking, the restructuring is a reaction to a flawed business model, a reaction to hold off creditors. I mean, when you read this thing in the Cannata Report, it's just ridiculous. And then they went on because they didn't want to say anything of any kind of that they would consider to be bad. Oh, we can't say that. They might get mad at us. So what they do is they include the official statement from Landa as part of the article, and they actually get into some more details. But where's the insight? Where's the insight from the author? The other author gave his insight, shared his thoughts. Where's the damn insight? None. I got to ask a question. Exactly how many units is a 30% increase in units? 1 or 2 machines? Come on. We're not selling that many machines. A 30% increase over last year could be like 1 more machine. What were the significant achievements? They talk about their achievements. What were the significant achievements? Why is anything considered a significant achievement? If that achievement comes without profitability, as an example, they got to have profit to be an achievement, right? If everything was going great and really profitable, I don't think the investors would be questioning whether or not they want to put the money back in, right? Dreams are not investments, and a full booth of spectators at Drupa doesn't pay the bills. So, for clarification, things are going great. Landa is breaking through the marketplace with its one-of-a-kind technology, but your stakeholders saying we're done? Something's out of whack there, right? Ladies and gentlemen, when the courts get between the company and its creditors, the company lost its power. And I believe that Landa Digital Printing they're in a mess. There's no doubt about it, because they had to seek protection. And when that happens, you lose the carts. And I think this, why haven't they sold already? What is the delay in their strategic conversations? The company's been around for 13 years. Landa has obviously always struggled to perform financially, so I don't see Landa as being in power over strategic alliances. Landa might have to recognize it doesn't have the power and needs to embrace some humility going forward. The fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, maybe the innovation that was going to be breakthrough and change the game in industrial inkjet, putting the ink on a blanket before it goes on a medium, maybe that's just not something that the industry really is willing to pay for. Maybe that's something that just looks really good at a show, but it's really unscalable. Maybe it just costs too much to deliver. I don't know what's going to happen with Landa. Who knows? Maybe they do get some investors. But I have to say, there is no proven marketplace if the supplier to the marketplace cannot deliver to that marketplace profitably. They have to be able to deliver profitably, and they have to be able to deliver enough. That's a fact. Otherwise, the investors are a little weary, right? It seems as Landa was more of a hobby to a bunch of investors who finally decided to stop participating in the hobby. That's my thinking. The distance between a hobby and a business is profit. And a lot of times, those investors, they think to themselves, you know what? We're done playing. We're done dreaming. They wake up. And when the investors wake up, that dreamer is probably going to wake up in a nightmare. And everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck there. Now, I know some folks are going to say, but Ray, isn't this nanographic technology disrupting status quo? Well, yeah, 13 years ago when they brought it into the marketplace to go and do it. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If they can't keep their motivated investors motivated, then no, it's not disrupting the status quo. And quite honestly, the status quo for Landa Digital Printing could be continuing to believe in the dream, when the dream, in fact, is a nightmare. Stay tuned, my friends, and I'll see you all tomorrow.